Hi, everybody. This is Drew Tomlin with the Association for Middle Level Education, and I'm joined today on this Google Hangout about leadership with Dr. Nikki Woodson. Dr. Nikki Woodson is the superintendent of schools for the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township in Indianapolis, Indiana. And she also serves on the Board of Governors for the International Baccalaureate and is a co-founder of Change Makers International, which focuses on global growth and contribution. And she's also, of course, an outstanding faculty member of AMLE's Leadership Institute, and of course, the excellent author of this article that you're checking out, entitled International Lessons on Leadership, a great reminder about global perspective and how it can help us. So thank you, Dr. Woodson, for joining us this morning.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
All right. So we're going to get straight to the questions, if you don't mind. Obviously, your article discusses the importance of international experience and perspective for educational leaders. When and how did you come to this realization?
Sure. I've always kind of had this itch for different experiences, experiencing different cultures, different foods, different religions, different languages. But I used to go with, I call it now the typical American mindset. And I would say my first epiphany of the change of the mindset came when I was a principal about a decade and a half ago. And I went and spent a summer in Africa between the countries of Uganda and Kenya. And I went because I thought I was going to go help and make a difference in villages in Uganda and in Kenya. The typical American mindset, I'm going to go help you. And through that summer that I spent in Africa, I was changed. And I was changed and challenged as a person and as a leader in ways that I did not anticipate. So I called it my trip to go change others, and I got changed myself. And so after that trip, about a decade and a half ago, I now take on new experiences from a different mindset. I go with an open mind. I don't go with a filtered mindset of what my agenda is. I go with an open mind and allow the experience to unfold as it is supposed to without my filter being placed on it. So it has opened up a whole new learning for myself about my own leadership style, about what I can share and be a leader to others about when I just open myself up to very different experiences like that. International travel is a great way to do it. But I also share in my article, international travel is expensive. And these are small ways. I have visited other churches in my own city that are not my religion, just to stretch myself as a leader. I have immersed myself with foods that I probably typically would not choose on my own, but just to try something new. So it doesn't have to be a plane ticket to another continent. It can be exposing yourself to something new in your own community that's pushing yourself outside of that box too. I think it's really important for leaders to do that.
Excellent. Yes, it's not just changing the physical or geographical state that you're in. It sounds like it's also changing your state of mind. So very, very important. Thank you for expounding on that. You also mentioned in your article how similar students are around the world. In your article, I think you mentioned looking out your window and seeing a group of students kind of just gather around each other, and that was kind of an epiphany for you there. So what similarities, so that's how similar students are, but what similarities have you seen in middle level leaders around the world as well?
Sure, absolutely. I can distinctly state that. First, whenever I go anywhere, I try to visit a school, whether it's just for a quick hour or a half day. I just try to visit a school because you can learn so much as a leader just by visiting with no purpose. I'm not evaluating. I'm not doing any work. I'm just immersing myself in a school culture. When I do that at the middle level, around our nation and around the world, I think there is this quirky passion about middle level students that is very similar no matter where I am, whether it's in China, where they work with middle level students, or whether I am in Nicaragua, where I visited some educators who work with middle level students. There's just this dire passion. I equate it to early childhood educators. They're early childhood educators, and they love that age. They're passionate about that age. And I feel the same way about middle level educators as well. They're really passionate about the age that they educate and feel like it's critical to the latter part of their education, and it can help form some of the early parts of their elementary education with what's done in that critical middle, as you always call it. Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. So, you know, another part of your article, you talk about, or you make a wonderful analogy between a driving experience that you had in Dubai,
Yes.
and just where the driver just said, "All right, buckle up and get ready."
Yeah.
And there were a few moments of panic and terror, I guess, in some
Yeah.
ways. And then you just kind of, as they say, you let it go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you expound upon that and saying, you know, that's what we need to do from a leadership perspective as well, to just kind of sometimes not always just experience things.
Yes, it's true.
So
Coming from a type A leader, I'm that leader that needs to know exactly what's coming. If I do this, then what are all the possibilities of what can happen? I need to know steps A through Z before I deploy something. But we do that all the time as leaders in this moving, living organism we call the educational ecosystem. We have to allow things to unfold. Sometimes, and everything can't be unfolding in front of us, but sometimes we just have to fasten our seatbelt and ride the ride as leaders. And it has taken me, I am still consciously working on that as a leader, because I'm so type A and I like everything in its nice, neat little box, but sometimes it just needs to be messy. And I've allowed myself more messy times as of late. I'm in my 5th year of a superintendent seat, and sometimes things need to be a little messy, and I've got to be okay with that. And this experience that I had in Dubai, where the driver said, fasten your seatbelts, and you didn't have time to ask, what's going to happen next? Do I need to fasten my seatbelt right now, or do I need to do it in a few minutes? Please explain to me everything that I'm about to experience. You just had to fasten your seatbelt and go on that ride with them. And I think leadership, especially at the middle level, is somewhat like that as well.
you know, it sounds like you are living one of the phrases that really resonated with me. You're living it on a day-to-day basis, and wrestling with both the comfort and the discomfort of leadership. And what you say is, this is the phrase that really struck me, is you tell us to listen to our leadership life.
Yes.
I thought that was remarkable. So two questions that go along with that. What makes up, from your perspective, what makes up someone's leadership life? What's the totality of that thing? And then how will listening to it improve middle level education or even school system growth?
Sure.
How's that help?
I think of it like a big quilt. And, you know, a quilt has each of the different patches, which means something. And those are the experiences that we've had throughout our educational leadership experiences, or even as an educator. I think all educators are leaders in my personal perspective, but whatever experiences, why did you become an educator? That's one quilt on your pouch. What is the thing that drives you to work every day in education? What are some students you've met along the way that have made a special mark on your heart? What are accomplishments that you've had as an educator? All of these make up different patches on our leadership or our educational experience quilt, but they can't be isolated patches. It's the entire quilt that makes up the experience. And I have been victim of being so busy and wanting to do things so well and so right as we do as educators, that I miss the time to sit back and look at the whole quilt. And if you miss that time, you're going to miss pieces of your journey. You're going to miss reflection opportunities, and you're going to miss opportunities to share your experiences with other educators, perhaps who are wanting to be leaders one day. So I think it's a matter of just sitting back, looking at your whole experience from time to time. We can't do it all the time, but not missing that opportunity to reflect. I think we as educators by nature are hard on ourselves. I think as middle level educators, we think, boy, if we could only do this, or we need more this, we need more funding. I need to be able to do this better with my students. If only I could get my achievement here. Sometimes you just need to sit back and just celebrate the accomplishments. Look at the patches we already have on our quilt, and just celebrate those sometimes. And those are the things that make up our leadership journey, and taking time to reflect on those, I think, is hugely important. And I've only come to do so within the past few years of my educational experiences.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that, thank you for sharing that. That it's not, that putting those patches on that quilt, it's a wonderful metaphor, and then taking the time to step back and looking at how it all kind of fits together, and in a messy way. I mean, quilts aren't necessarily very structured. They can be really, patterned, but other times they're not, and we have to be okay with that. It's the Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And normally I ask a food analogy question, but that quilt analogy you just did was so awesome. I'm gonna totally bypass the food one. So I want to ask one final question about just I don't know, just from a travel perspective. What's the most dynamic place that you visited, and what made it so had such an impact on you?
Drew, that's a really tough question for a travel junkie like myself. I will tell you, from China to India to Uganda to Nicaragua to a summer in Oaxaca, Mexico, to travels in Europe, I really enjoy all of the experiences collectively because they each are so different. I guess my favorite experiences are when I'm immersed around a culture I'm least familiar with, a language that I do not know, and a place that I have know very little information about or knowledge about, the culture of the people. And in that way, I have to immerse myself and learn and listen a lot and observe a lot and reflect a lot. So it forces me, when I go to those places where I know the least about the language, religion, culture, etc., to sit back and take it all in, more so than when I'm going to a more familiar place. So I just would say all of my travels, I encourage anybody to travel as much as they can. One of my favorite authors, Maya Angelou, has written so much about her travels internationally. And as a young child, I used to read about that, saying, wow, wouldn't that be so cool to go to some of those places and look how this experience changed one of my favorite authors. I wonder how it might change me one day. And now here I am as that adult, and I'm actually experiencing and living some of those dreams out, and it's pretty fantastic.
Excellent. Well, gosh, and everybody out there, if you don't know, Dr. Nikki Woodson is one of the busiest people that I think exists in the world. So if she can make time for travel and if she can make time for travel, then gosh, any of us can. And also, this came to mind to me too, that international travel is difficult for you. Start small. Gosh, sometimes just going 2 blocks from where you normally go in your everyday pattern can be a step in the right direction towards experiencing different cultures and communities. And that could be, like I said, right in your own community, just 2 blocks the other direction. See a whole other part of the world.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Nikki. I really, really appreciate your time and your commitment to not just middle level education, but clearly leadership and growing your perspective so it helps grow ours too. So thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Awesome. And of course, thank you AMLE Magazine readers for checking out this article here at AMLE Magazine, where we help you reach every student, grow professionally, and create great schools. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.